Hey guys, you've heard of the Young Turks podcast because you're listening to it right now. But make sure that you subscribe and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. Thank you for listening. All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian. We should, in a sense, be joyous today because Trump has revealed himself even more to be a lunatic. But I am not in a joyous mood because no one will acknowledge it. So we're going to show you the clips. The guy clearly is not a functioning adult. I don't know if he wears adult diapers. I don't know what his situation is, but he's not mentally cognizant. He's not a functioning, stable person. We have a lunatic as a president. I say things that are obvious. 60% of the country knows that I'm right. Everybody on TV is like, I don't see it. And so anyway, at this point, I actually think that Mitch McConnell's probably looking for Pelosi to put him out of his misery, but she just can't do it. He's like, God damn it, you want me to do this for you? So, but the good news is the Republican senators, we'll talk about this throughout the show. They're planning their own funeral here. So politically, obviously. But okay, all right, let's go. I mean, what we're gonna do for you guys today is an honest show, a real show like we do every single day. Everybody else is doing political correctness. So you turn on cable news, you'll get a lot of blobbity political correctness. The guy wants moats and goats and boats on the border with snakes and planes and all right, anyway, I got a lot of that for you guys. And if you hadn't heard, Bernie Sanders did have a very minor heart issue. We'll talk about it at the end. It actually has some political ramifications as well. I don't mean in terms of the electoral race, I mean in terms of policy. So we'll talk about that as well. He's totally fine. I have reports not only from publicly but privately that he's totally fine. Okay, so we'll talk more about that later. All right, let's get started with the madness, Anna.
All right, Donald Trump had.
Believe it or not, I watch my words very carefully. There are those that think I'm a very stable genius.
That's Donald Trump making a fool out of himself and the rest of the country during a press conference with the leader of Finland. And that wasn't all he did to embarrass the country. He went on childlike juvenile rants about the impeachment inquiry. He made things up. He insulted European allies. It was so unbearable that at one point there was an interaction between Trump and the Finnish leader that looked like this.
Finland is the happiest country in the world.
Finland is a happy country.
What can you learn? What can you learn from Finland?
Finland is a happy country.
What can you learn? What can you learn?
I mean, throughout the entire press conference, it was Trump making a fool out of himself and the leader of Finland, honestly, taking some pretty subtle jabs. I don't know if other people read it the same way that I did, but we're gonna go through everything and you can judge for yourselves.
Before we do, I'm wearing my Very Stable Genius shirt. Now you might be thinking, man, they were quick on that. That's already up on shoptyt.com. He said it today. No, the reason we have it is because he said it multiple times. He said it before too. So I keep saying things that are obvious, and the crowd in Washington that believes the emperor has clothes on says, no, Cenk, you're the bad guy for saying things that everyone that is rational can see. The guy's a lunatic. If anybody walks into a bar and says to you, hey, I'm a very stable person, what do? You run for the hills because the guy's about to murder you, right? I mean, would a single woman or man, if a person walked up to him at a bar and said, I'm very stable, think, oh, that's good, the guy's stable, maybe I should give him my number. No, you would think the guy's nuts, I gotta get out of here. And that's where we are as a country. The guy's nuts. We can't leave, he has to. Impeachment, 25th Amendment, whatever. There are no people who are geniuses who go around saying, I'm a genius, I'm a genius, right? There are no people who are stable who go around, I'm very stable. And there are certainly no very stable geniuses who scream that for the whole world to see. He's an international embarrassment. McConnell's gotta be thinking, God damn it, Pelosi and Schumer, do I have to do this for you? I mean, Jesus Christ, get this guy out. He's embarrassing all of us. But no, on television, oh, I don't know. What do you think about his policies? What do you think about his strategy? The guy wants to fill a moat with alligators and snakes. He's a lunatic. And here we are. We're having a debate. We're not even having a debate about it. We're not even having a debate about it. I'm a very stable genius. God damn. Look, what's the debate? The real debate is lunatic or so unintelligent that he's not a functioning adult. That's your only choices. Anyone who says otherwise is stupid.
So let's go to the first video that kind of gives you an idea of what things look like. First off, let me just remind you all that Donald Trump is facing an impeachment inquiry because he asked the Ukrainian president to do him a favor and dig up dirt on his political opponent, Joe Biden, and his son, Hunter Biden. With that context, let's take a look at the first video.
You please pick somebody who's really nice from Finland.
No,
do you have a really nice person?
For President Niinistö, because this is the biggest issue here at the moment, I have to ask, what kind of favors has Mr. Trump asked from you?
Or the other way around, you mean?
What favors I asked, or
I think
was
you mean
asked?
the other way around.
Both ways, okay.
So the journalists in Finland don't play, and so they're asking about what kind of favors were asked during conversations with Trump. Let's go to the next clip.
Ask a question, please.
Thank you, sir.
What about Mr. Biden? What did you want about Biden? What did you want him to look into on Biden?
Look, Biden and his son are stone cold crooked, and you know it. His son walks out with millions of dollars. The kid knows nothing. You know it, and so do we. Go ahead, ask a question.
But the question, sir, was what did you want President Zelensky to do about Vice President Biden and his son Hunter?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, it was just a follow-up of what I just asked you, sir.
Listen, you ready? We have the President of Finland. Ask him a question.
I have one for him. I just wanted to follow up on the one that I asked you, which was,
did you hear
what
me?
did you want
Did you
him
hear
to
me?
Yes,
ask
sir.
him a question.
I will, but
I've given you a long answer. Ask this gentleman a question. Don't be rude.
No, sir, I don't want to be rude. I just wanted you to have a chance to answer the question that I asked you.
I've answered everything. It's a whole hoax. And you know who's playing into the hoax? People like you and the fake news media that we have in this country. And I say in many cases, the corrupt media, because you're corrupt. It's corrupt and it's fake. Ask the President of Finland a question, please.
Okay, I'll move on now.
Okay, so do you understand how legitimate that reporter's question is? So you talked about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden to the president of Ukraine. You've acknowledged that, no one disputes that. And you asked them, do me a favor though. So what did you want the president of Ukraine to do about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden? Now, since you're admitting you had that conversation and you asked for the favor, it is the most logical question on earth to ask you, so what is the favor? What did you want him to do? Did you want him to start a formal investigation? Did you want him to arrest someone? What did you want him to do? And by the way, if you were not embarrassed about what you did and you think there's nothing wrong with it, you'd say, oh, that's really simple. I wanted him to follow up and appoint a prosecutor to make sure that Hunter Biden was arrested or whatever it is that you wanted him to do. But he doesn't want to answer that question because he's a crook. And so he's like, you ask him the question. All right, whatever. Look, when he doesn't answer it, MAGA guys, you think, oh yeah. And he says, yeah, he must be right because he didn't want anything to happen with Biden. What he just told you he did. So what did you want to happen? You know that's a legit question. And he says the whole thing's a hoax. Which part is a hoax? You say you called the Ukrainian president and asked him to look into Biden. So what part is a hoax? There's no answers because he's an idiot.
Well, I mean, look, the way that he's tried to sell that conversation was, oh, I'm looking out for everyone. I'm trying to drain the swamp, right? That's what he keeps referring to, draining the swamp. Giuliani, his own personal lawyer, keeps referring to it as draining the swamp. So they're trying to sell this as, no, it's not about personal favors. It's not about digging up dirt on my political opponent. It's about ending corruption. This is my way of draining the swamp. So that's why I think that question from the Reuters White House correspondent that you just heard from is also important. Because, all right, if you're gonna try to sell it as helping the American people by draining the swamp, what exactly is Ukraine's role? Like, what would they do? How would this benefit Americans, right? That's really, in my opinion, what the underlying question is. And so Trump has his panic attack and says, ask the leader of Finland a question, don't ask me. And so at that point, mind you, that White House correspondent from Reuters is about to ask the Finnish leader a question. And then notice how Trump jumps in. Take a look.
In your opening remarks, you said to President Trump that you had been to some museums today and that you respected the US democracy and encouraged him to continue it. Are you concerned that that's not happening? And my second question to you, sir, is the WTO ruled today in favor of the United States, saying that the United States can now impose tariffs on European goods because of illegal subsidies against Airbus.
That was a big win for the United States, right?
It wasn't.
You never had wins with other presidents, did you? But we're having a lot of wins at the WTO
this was
since
a
I
case
became
that started,
president.
I think, 10 or 15 years ago.
Okay.
But
excuse me. Your wins are now because they think I don't like the WTO and they want to make sure I'm happy. Because all of those countries were ripping off the United States for many years. They know that I'm wise to it. We've had a lot of wins. This was a $7 billion win, not bad.
But I think the question is for me.
I think the question is for me, he said. Okay.
It's amazing. He wants to take credit for things that he has not accomplished, for things that he had really no role in, right? And so he comes into office, all you get is fire and fury, all you get is chaos, all you get is nonstop turnover in his White House, right? Nothing but conflict, nothing but division, nothing but hate, nothing but migrant children dying at the border. I mean, the list goes on and on. Complete chaos in the economy right now. He is a nightmare. And instead, he stands there in front of the world, embarrasses the American people with his rhetoric and his disgusting nonsense. But more importantly, thinks of himself as this incredible leader who's accomplished all these great things, even though he hasn't accomplished anything. Most of the great things that have happened have nothing to do with him whatsoever. And I love the fact that he was called out on that.
Yeah, look, guys, it's not a matter even of style. If you said, you guys want decorum, civility, have you watched the show? No, we don't mind being tough. We don't mind being aggressive. And at times I've even given Trump credit when he aggressively challenged other foreign leaders, etc. And that's not the issue. The issue is you have to actually have some sort of rational basis for your arguments. And so when he says, okay, the Biden thing's a hoax, even though I did call Ukraine and I did ask them for a favor about Biden, okay, you can yell about it, I don't mind the yelling, but what are you yelling about? What's the hoax? Which part is a hoax? So in this case, I got it done, I got it done. It's a case that's been going on for 10 to 15 years. Your lawyers continued. In fact, when I worked at a law firm, we had a case very similar, went on for about a decade. I filed the last piece of paperwork, and then it turns out that the other side decided they want to settle on my watch in a sense. But I was doing paperwork on it. I had nothing to do with it. But if I was Trump, I'd be like, it was me. They were scared of me, first year lawyer. And since I did the last memos and documents on it, it was me, right? Well, you'd be an idiot if you thought that, and that's what he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's worse than that. Even if he had absolutely no role and didn't even work on the paperwork, he'd still take credit.
Of course.
If he was at a completely different law firm that had nothing to do with the case, he'd take credit. That's the kind of person Donald Trump is. Now, throughout this entire press conference, there were subtle jabs by the President of Finland toward Donald Trump specifically, and this is a little bit of an example of that. Now, in the last question that you heard the White House correspondent ask, he made a reference to what the President of Finland said about America's democracy. What he was referring to is what you're about to hear from the President of Finland. Take a look.
Yes, first of all, when I referred to your democracy, I just wanted to tell that I'm impressed what American people have gained during these decades, hundreds of years, building up a very impressive democracy. So keep it going on.
So I viewed that as a subtle jab because he's trying to say, like, look, the American people have fought for democracy, have built the country over, several decades. And so keep going. And look, here's Donald Trump trying to take credit for everything, right? So I love the way that he answered that question. It was subtle. This is how smart people do their jabs.
That's right. Yeah, Anna, you're 100% right. Nobody says, hey, keep your democracy going out of nowhere for no reason. Under Obama, they weren't like, hey, you've had a democracy for decades that are doing really well. Please keep it going, right? So But he's smart enough to know that Trump is stupid enough to not understand that that was an insult towards him.
100%, yeah. I love it. So one final clip in regard to Trump's ridiculous, erratic behavior and how he keeps going after the media. Here he is with a parting shot toward American press.
Please remember the president's last remarks that we are a great democracy. The United States is a great democracy. And I'm airing what I'm airing because we are, in fact, a democracy. And if the press were straight and honest and forthright and tough, we would be a far greater nation. We would be a far greater when we don't have the CNNs of the world who are corrupt people. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, two things about that. One, see, he didn't get it at all. He's like, he's right. Yeah. We are a great democracy, right? No, he's taking a jab at you, you idiot. If you watch the Finnish president's gesticulations throughout, both when they were sitting, which is a separate part of what they did with the press, and when they were at the lecterns, like as you're seeing here. So in there, he even like shook his head a little bit. The Finnish president did, like, and then he puts the pen away, like, I'm finished, if you will, and then he's trying to patiently listen. And see the shaking of the head right there.
That is hilarious.
Okay, he's like, this idiot doesn't get it. And now he's attacking the press. When I was trying to tell you, keep democracy going, including a free press. And he's like, the problem is the press. You guys are all wrong. And the Finnish president's like, get me out of here.
Do we ever get a single day during this administration that isn't deeply embarrassing? Just deeply embarrassing. On the world stage, Donald Trump embarrasses us on a regular basis. It's incredible. And like, what also amazes me is you have members of the right wing in America who think that previous presidents embarrassed us, that they were apologizing for the country too much and that's how they embarrassed. No, they didn't embarrass us. I mean, they might have time to time, but Donald Trump does it on a regular basis by acting like a child on the world stage. This is a joint press conference with the President of Finland. And he's focusing on airing his grievances in regard to his criminal conduct that he's now facing investigations over.
So look, Trump voters, a lot of them, they're not following it day to day. We've gotten into culture wars. And so they're like, my culture is that I don't like Obama and I don't like you liberals, and you're trying to take Christmas away from me, and I like my guns, and I don't want to think. Okay, I just want to lash out at you guys. I'm angry. And so I'm going to lash out at the establishment, which, by the way, has some logic to it if you would just think for a second about what they're doing wrong and why they're doing it wrong and how you could fix it. Instead, you just take an orange brick like Donald Trump, you go, here, boom. Here's basically chaos for all of you guys. But if you're following Trump closely and you've seen all this and you're online and you're watching all the clips and you still think he's smart, oh, God damn, that's embarrassing. Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow, if you think that guy is smart, that is painful, man. I feel terrible for you. Go get some mental health counseling.
We have to take a break, but when we come back, there's one other portion of this press conference that involves Adam Schiff. We're going to jump into that and some of the allegations that Donald Trump has in regard to Representative Schiff. And then later in the show, we have more, including additional evidence that Donald Trump spoke to other world leaders in an effort to get them to do some favors for him. We'll be right back.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be. Featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity, the UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFDR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Let me go to your comments first. Lita says, that's why I'm here with you guys. I cannot stomach the other news organizations being so lame. He's a wackadoodle. Well, I like that word. Okay, thank you, Lita. We appreciate it. Karen Shea says, I bought that shirt for my son. He's conservative, but still wears it. That's true. You know, this could go either way, you know, either as mockery or if you're a conservative, be like, no. He really is a very stable genius. Have at it. So whichever way you want. ShopTYT.com. But thank you, Karen. We appreciate it. Stand Against Hopelessness says, if Trump had a cabinet made up of anything other than sycophants, it would be a race to see which could be completed first, impeachment or 25th Amendment. That is, of course, true. But remember, he fired everyone who wasn't a sycophant. So it's too late for that now. Joe at Go Indie Now asks, is Finland as nice as Norway?
Norway.
That's all. James Mays on Twitter also says, I finally bought my first TYT shirt, hashtag very stable genius. Have I mentioned it? Okay, I can't get past of it. Anyway, Julia H, this is important, guys, writes in, I have less respect for other world leaders for even meeting with this moron in office. They don't say anything and just sit and keep up his force by allowing themselves to be in this situation. They should stop meeting with him. But Julia, that's why the call with Ukraine has at a bare minimum a massive implied threat. Why does the leader of Finland go meet with him when he is leagues smarter than Donald Trump? And it's deeply frustrating and embarrassing to be in the same room with him and have to tolerate him. Because they don't have a choice. Because otherwise we're gonna cut off their aid, we're gonna do all of these different things, but we might not protect them in our alliances if Russia invades, etc. And so that's why having an unstable egomaniac for a corrupt person as our leader is deeply problematic, because everybody has to cater to his corruption, because otherwise they're gonna lose really important things that they need for their country. So it's like we're having everybody go kiss Joffrey Baratheon's ass. It's damaging to the whole world. All right, last one on a fun note. I'm the Derpy Dragon says, come on, Cenk, that was the perfect timing for a he's Finnish pun. I got it in there. You think I'm not gonna do a Finnish joke with when we've got the leader of Finland there? So, okay, but thank you for keeping me on my toes. All right, I'm Finnish, go ahead.
All right, so during Donald Trump's joint press conference with the president of Finland, the topic of Representative Adam Schiff came up, and Trump had some strong words to say about him. Take a look.
The conversation was perfect. It couldn't have been nicer. I saw Rick Scott. I saw many of the senators talking about it, many of the congressmen talking about it. Not a thing wrong. Unless you heard the Adam Schiff version where he made up my conversation. He actually made it up. It should be criminal. It should be treasonous. He made it up, every word of it, made up, and read to Congress as though I said it. And I'll tell you what, he should be forced to resign. Adam Schiff, he's a lowlife. He should be forced to resign. He took a perfect conversation, realized he couldn't read it to Congress because it was perfect. It was a very nice conversation. So he made up a conversation and he reported it and said it to Congress and to the American people. And it was horrible what he said. And that was supposed to be coming from me, but it was all fabricated. He should resign from office in disgrace. And frankly, they should look at him for treason because he is making up the words of the President of the United States. Not only words, but the meaning, and it's a disgrace. It should not be allowed to happen. I saw Schiff trying to go 15, call him Shifty Schiff. We don't call him Shifty Schiff for nothing. He's a shifty, dishonest guy.
Wow, we have a little alliteration this time around. Congratulations, Trump.
But only because it feeds into his bigotry. Calling a Jewish member of Congress shifty is another anti-Semitic trope listed among the dozen things that Trump said wrong there. And so In the old days, that would have been the worst of the worst. But he's threatening to execute the guy by saying that it's treason. So I guess it's not as bad as that. So let's go through it. First of all, he says he made up every word. Ironically, that's a lie. And according to Donald Trump's standard, if any public official lies, it's treason, they should be executed. Okay, now don't do that. Democrats should not talk about treason in that sense, because we're getting into super ugly territory. Now, I don't believe in when they go low, you go high. No, I'm willing to go perfectly low, but this talk of treason is madness, okay? It's encouraging the malicious to go grab their arms, talk of civil war. It's decaying the country, okay? So now when he says every part of it was wrong, no, we're gonna show you what Schiff said in a second. He was paraphrasing. Oh, you don't want him to paraphrase, and you don't want him to do parody, and you don't want him to make fun. He says, it was a perfect conversation. Great, then release the transcript. You have the transcript, Schiff doesn't. I don't, you have it, Donald Trump. If it was so goddamn perfect, why aren't you releasing it? Because it isn't perfect, is it? That's why you're hiding it. They took it from where it normally is in the White House, and they put it into a secret server that's supposed to have top secret information. That call does not have top secret information. They took damaging calls on a regular basis and put it in that secret server. Why? Because they're hiding it. If it's a perfect call, you have nothing to be embarrassed about. Brag about it, Donald Trump, to release the transcript. But you're not doing it because it was not perfect. Why does he call it perfect? Because he thinks, what a weird thing to say, right? That any call, no matter how well it went, that it was perfect. No, he's saying it because he thinks in his stupid head, oh, I said it without saying it. You're not gonna be able to catch me, so I did it perfectly. That's why he keeps using that weird word in this context. He thinks, I asked him to investigate Biden and get dirt on him, but I didn't say the word dirt. It was perfect. God, infinitely stupid.
So we're gonna show you the Schiff statements that have Trump all riled up. But I do wanna make one quick clarification, because there was one tiny piece of what Trump said that was actually right. And so since we do a fair and honest show here, I wanna make sure that I clarify this. So according to PolitiFact, when Schiff was talking about the summary of the transcript, and mind you, the summary of that transcript came out a day before Schiff spoke about it on the House floor. According to PolitiFact, Schiff said in his opening statement and in TV interviews that Trump had asked Zelensky to make up or manufacture dirt on Trump's political 2020 opponent, former Vice President Joe Biden. That's not accurate. Trump asked Zelensky to investigate, not provide false information. So that is a point of clarification I just want to get out of the way. But with that said, his paraphrasing of that conversation was actually, for the most part, pretty accurate. Take a look at a portion of that.
This is the essence of what the president communicates. We've been very good to your country, very good. No other country has done as much as we have. But you know what? I don't see much reciprocity here. I hear what you want. I have a favor I want from you, though. And I'm gonna say this only 7 times, so you better listen good. I want you to make up dirt on my political opponent, understand lots of it. On this and on that. I'm gonna put you in touch with people, not just any people. I'm gonna put you in touch with Attorney General of the United States, my Attorney General, Bill Barr. He's got the whole weight of the American law enforcement behind him. And I'm gonna put you in touch with Rudy. You're gonna love him, trust me. This is, in character, what the president was trying to communicate.
So I gotta give you some more facts about what happened that day. So again, that was on September 26th. That was the day that the Director of National Intelligence, Joseph McGuire, was testifying before members of the House, right? So I give you that context because if you go back and you watch how that all went down, the number of lies, just straight up lies on the Republican side, were outrageous. But no one calls that out. No one calls that out. Whenever the testimony happens, right? Whether it's in this case with Joseph McGuire or with Brett Kavanaugh, with whoever, right? The line of questioning usually consists of a bunch of false statements coming from whichever Republican has the floor at that moment. But no one ever questions that. No one ever says that's wrong. No one ever calls out their lies. And so in this case, you have Adam Schiff, and he is adding his own to the transcript, right? When he says, you better listen because I'm gonna mention Biden 7 times. Obviously, Trump didn't say that exact line, but he mentioned Biden 7 times at least.
So guys, look, Democrats need to proceed from strength. So you see how Trump is trying to divert the conversation to Schiff. Schiff is paraphrasing what Trump said on the call. He actually got almost all of it right. And he goes to joking in the middle when he says, I'm only gonna mention 7 times. You can see in the tape, Devin Nunes, who's a giant Trump supporter, even smiles and laughs, right? And says, make up dirt on my political opponent. Now, of course, he didn't say make up dirt in the call, otherwise we'd all know that. So he's paraphrasing, but if you wanna proceed from strength, you know what you would do? Adam Schiff would do a press conference and say, Donald Trump is a notorious liar that has lied over 12,000 times already. He claims that lying is treason. Okay, well, I was doing a parody, but if he wants to use that standard, well then okay, let's apply it to him. And say, hey, but look, you don't have to worry about any of this because Donald Trump can solve this. He can release the transcript tomorrow. If he doesn't release the transcript, then you know he's guilty, that he did ask for dirt, and it is incumbent upon him to prove that he didn't because he has the transcript and he will not release it. Until he releases it, you can assume that he is 100% guilty. Now, what will that do? That Trump that'll drive Trump crazy, right? And he'll start talking about, I'm not gonna release the transcript. And everybody go, oh, I wonder why. Because you are guilty and you are hiding the transcript. But Democrats don't know how to play this game. I think eventually McConnell might finish him. Because this is actually gonna hurt the Republican senators a lot, defending this lunatic with only a year left before the election. His approval rating's down to 37% and he's dragging down all the Republicans with him. And McConnell's gotta be thinking, I could finish this guy in a day, man. God damn it, Schumer, Pelosi, Schiff, do you know how to do anything? And Schiff and Pelosi are like, and I'm bumbling things away, right? Fight him already. Eventually McConnell might be like, oh, God damn it, just step out of the way. Hey, Trump, boom, 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 you're done, right? Because Democrats don't know how to fight. So one more thing, guys, lying, I have to clarify this because MAGA people are incredibly unintelligent. Even if Schiff, quote unquote, lied in your opinion, okay, instead of doing an obvious joke, okay, you think he lied. That is not the same as treason. You do not execute people for lying, and you wouldn't want that standard since your guy has lied 12,000 times. Is that clear enough? I don't know, you have to talk slowly with MAGA people, not very bright.
Now, I'm gonna skip ahead to video K10 because as we know, and as Cenk just mentioned, Trump has referred to Schiff's actions as treason over and over again. And he was asked about that by the same White House correspondent for Reuters, whose line of questioning got Trump riled up earlier in the press conference. But nonetheless, take a look at the question and the way that Trump answers it. Again, this is about treason.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask you about your use of the word treason. You've used it repeatedly in the last few days. Do you consider anyone who opposes you treasonous?
No, I consider when they lie, when they stand before our great body in our great chamber, and they make up a story that's fiction, like Schiff did. He took that perfect conversation I had with the Ukrainian president, and he made it into a total lie. It was a total fabrication. And you do admit that. It was a total fabrication. He said this is what, and the only ones that don't like my conversation are the ones that never read it.
Then why don't you let all of us read it? Oh, right, because you're guilty, okay? And second of all, again, lying is not treason. He doesn't know anything. Total bumbling fool. All he ever wants to do is arrest his political opponents. Natural born fascist. God damn it, finish him already politically.
All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna switch gears and I'm gonna give you the story regarding Trump's communications with Boris Johnson, the leader of Italy, other various countries where he is asking them to help him out with discrediting the Mueller investigation.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your active ID more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Farmer Phil writes in the member section, can you imagine how badly Trump is losing it in private? I can't wait to see how many books come out from this administration once the staff knows it's safe to come out from hiding. Yeah, and so great point. Yeah, yesterday in the post game, we did the moat story with the gators and the skin piercing, poles and snakes and stuff. And he yells in private to his staff, or to his cabinet, you're making me look like an idiot. Well, no, somebody in the room is, but imagine how he's yelling at him now as he gets more and more unhinged. And those losers sit there and take it from that man-child. So I can go on and on. Evil Morty says Trump projects his faults onto others on a regular basis. That's been going on countless times. Has there ever been a better example of it when Trump calls Schiff treasonous? Right. God damn it, if anybody's got evidence of him talking to Putin, that translator, the one he took the notes from, subpoena him, make him testify under any and all circumstances. The Democrats have no strength at all. And by the way, we're not kiss ass here. In fact, I'll do it in this context. Last one. Change my Borg designation, writes in, Cenk, when is someone expressing an opinion different from yours need mental health counseling? When is your opinion so top heavy that there is no quarter for anyone else's dissenting opinion? This is a very Trumpian approach to quashing dissent.
I mean, come on. I mean, if you're watching Trump's behavior and you think this is normal, if you think that he's not a lunatic, this isn't even about policy. I'm not having a conversation about policy or cultural differences between the right wing and the left wing. Like, move that all out of the way. Let's just focus on his mental capacity. If you watch that and you think that he has sound mental capacity, then yeah, you need help. How do you watch his behavior and think that that's normal or okay? I mean, I feel like we're like nonstop being gaslit. Right?
100%, gaslit through and through. And the problem that you have, I love your brother, but the problem you have is that you're a liberal. And so you want to be nice to everyone, right? And you think, oh, well, let's be careful. And hey, maybe Trump supporters, we should dissenting opinion. No, I know smart and stupid, and no one in the world is gonna gaslight me into saying, well, maybe this, maybe that, okay? Dick Cheney was smart. Roger Ailes was smart. Charles Koch is smart. They are worthy adversaries. I respect them. I can't stand them. I think they're in a lot of ways more dangerous than Donald Trump. At least they believe in the Republic, so that's a little bit different. But I'm not saying Charles Koch is stupid or any of those guys. Donald Trump is a grade A moron, and if you can't see it, what does that make you? So I know that you can see it. I'm not referring to you in that sense. But when you tell me, hey, don't say that about the Republicans who think that, sorry, no deal. Don't agree, won't do it. They are stupid, and I will call them stupid.
All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, so we have more reporting indicating that Donald Trump spoke to additional world leaders in an attempt to get them to help him with various favors, including an attempt to delegitimize or discredit the Mueller investigation. Now, one of the individuals he spoke to was Boris Johnson. So let's give you the details on that. The Times of London actually reported that Trump reached out to Boris Johnson a day after he had that July 25th call with the Ukrainian president. So a day after, he hits up Boris Johnson and asks for a favor. So he specifically wants access to British intel in an effort to discredit the Mueller investigation. So it's unclear what type of crazy conspiracy theory he has and how he thinks, Boris Johnson can help him out, but he wants access to their intel specifically so he can point to issues with the Mueller investigation. But that's not all. The Times of London also reported that Trump also contacted the leaders of countries including Australia, Italy, and Ukraine to ask them to help William Barr, his attorney general, to gather evidence to undermine the investigation into his campaign's links to Russia. Now, why is this relevant? Because every time he reaches out to these foreign leaders, he's not asking for favors to help the American people. He's not discussing foreign policy that could help both countries or help the American people. He's specifically looking for ways to get them to give him information that will help him with his re-election campaign, including, in his mind, discrediting the Mueller investigation. And what's incredible about this is if he had just dropped it, if he had just let it go, you have these weak Democrats who refuse to go after Trump, even though they spent all their energy on this Mueller investigation. And that Mueller report specifically pointed to various instances of Trump obstructing justice, but Democrats dropped it. Trump didn't drop it, Democrats dropped it. And so instead, he's getting himself into more trouble by trying to get more information and more favors from world leaders to help his campaign, which is against the law. That is an in-kind contribution to his campaign.
So it's pathological, that's why, he can't help himself. Now, of course, the British government's like denying it through and through. Not that they were asked, but that they participated. They're like, oh, we didn't do it, we didn't do it.
Yeah, in fact, I want to go to that video, Cenk, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
So the British MP, Ben Bradshaw, actually grilled the British foreign minister, Dominic Raab, over this. And I want to go to that video. Here they are, not denying the call happened, but denying that they helped.
Did the Prime Minister, as today's Times reports, receive a request from President Trump for help in trying to discredit the Mueller report and the role of British and American intelligence in uncovering the Russian interference in the 2016 presidential elections? And will he assure the House that no British Prime Minister would ever collude with any foreign leader to undermine or smear our security and intelligence services or damage their vital cooperation with their American colleagues?
The honourable member, can first be clear that the Prime Minister is not going to comment on the discussions with President Trump that were held in private, but I can give him the assurance that, of course, neither the Prime Minister, or as then was the Foreign Secretary, nor any member of this government would collude in the way that he's described. That's, of course, entirely unacceptable and would never have happened and did not happen.
Yeah, so look, I don't know what to believe from Boris Johnson's government, but likely they're smart enough to not have done that. So usually with world leaders, and you see it with Zelensky in the Ukraine call a little bit, they have to humor Donald Trump. They have to go, oh, well, yes, sir, of course, sir. We'll look into it, sir, without making any specific promises. So, because otherwise the man-child is gonna get upset. And he's gonna say, I'm gonna take away your funding. I'm gonna get out of the alliances, right? So they have to be like, yes, sir. But afterwards, just like his own aides, as a New York Times story reported yesterday, say, oh yeah, don't follow any of those orders. You'll get arrested. But wait for him to leave, wait for the dunce to leave the room or to end the phone call before we ignore him, because we're not gonna break the law. Understand, from the British point of view, there's two different problems. One is interfering in US elections to help one political party over another, and that's a terrible idea, both legally and just for the national security interests of Britain. They don't want to pick sides between Republicans and Democrats because they have to deal with both parties. But there's a second problem. What Trump is asking them to do, and the MP referred to it there, is to throw the British national security analyst under the bus. And for Boris Johnson to come out and say, oh, that's right, the British intelligence worked with American intelligence to betray America.
It's ridiculous.
That's an unbelievable request. Of course, only Donald Trump would ask that because he's a very stable genius. And so the Boris Johnson's government's like, no, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. Now that's for the British to decide whether they did do that. But Trump asked for it, and that is clear, and they didn't deny it.
This is what happens when you actually don't deliver on all the promises that you made to your base, right? So in your re-election campaign, what are you gonna reference when you wanna talk about your successes in the first term as president? Are you gonna reference the tax cuts that didn't benefit the middle class or the working class? Those massive tax cuts that gave $2 trillion to the wealthiest Americans? No, you're not gonna mention that. You're gonna mention nonsense like, oh, I'm a victim, and look what happened with the Mueller investigation. And look, once you're backed into a corner focusing on something like this, then you're gonna have to keep bringing the Mueller investigation into this when Democrats have dropped it. There was no need to keep bringing it up, right? Much to, my dismay, because I feel like Democrats should have focused on obstruction of justice in addition to a litany of other issues that Trump is engaged in. So what happened after Trump had that call with Boris Johnson? Was there any action? Well, actually there was. So it turns out that there was a conversation immediately after that with William Barr and some of the politicians. Here, let me give you the graphic. Several days later, Barr attended a meeting of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance in London, where he repeated the president's suspicion about UK intelligence agencies. So there was actual action following that call.
I mean, Trump is going around accusing Adam Schiff of treason. He's actively asking other governments to betray our national security intelligence officials and say, hey, tell people that they were colluding against me. And now that's not true. So he's saying, oh yeah, it undermined the American intelligence operations. Okay, so look, I'm gonna say two more things here. The conservatives who love to go online and talk about, oh, the liberals, they're such snowflakes. They like to get they get triggered so easily. Ha 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 ha. They make fun and stuff. Look at your leader. Do you really think he doesn't get triggered? Is there anyone who gets triggered more? You know what the reporters should do from a progressive perspective? From now on, before they ask any questions to Donald Trump, they should say, Mr. President, trigger warning. I'm gonna ask you a legitimate question. You are very likely to be triggered by it, and I don't wanna cause any emotional trauma, so I wanted to give you this opportunity to crawl into a safe space. But maybe they should literally give him trigger warnings, because everything triggers him. He's the biggest snowflake in the world. And to all of the media and all of the establishment and all the wealthy in these countries, you say, oh, Corbyn is a radical. Look, Corbyn's to the left of me. But whenever there is a right winger that is a radical, Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, Bolsonaro, it doesn't matter. That's acceptable. Right wing radicals that destroy the benefit to the average person in Britain, Brazil, that destroy the planet, destroy the credibility of America, totally acceptable to everyone in power. Why? Because they're getting those tax cuts. Who cares? Put the idiots in charge, put the radicals in charge. Oh, someone is a little too far left. Oh, that's a radical. No, wait, can't have Corbyn. You can't have Corbyn. He wouldn't give me or Papa or Mama any tax cuts. So no, that's a radical. But Boris Johnson, he might be a radical, but he's totally acceptable. No problem at all, okay? Trump might be a radical, but no problem at all. Can't have Bernie. He would actually represent average Americans. Can't have Warren. She would actually challenge the banks. But radical on the left, but on the right, everything's fine. Okay, so understand who they're working for.
All right, let's move on to the next story.
As for was I on the phone call, I was on the phone call.
All right, that is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and he's being called out over the fact that he was listening in on the phone conversation between Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, and Donald Trump. Now, this was the July 25th phone conversation where Trump specifically asked Zelensky to do favors for him, including digging up dirt on Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden. Now, at first, Pompeo denied knowing anything about it, but then there was reporting indicating that he actually listened in on the call. So here he is, finally taking ownership of the fact that he knew what was going on. Take a look.
As for was I on the phone call, I was on the phone call. The phone call was in the context of, now I guess I've been the Secretary of State for coming on a year and a half. It's what our team, including Ambassador Volker, were focused on, was taking down the threat that Russia poses there in Ukraine. It was about helping the Ukrainians to get graft out and corruption outside of their government. It's what the State Department officials that I've had the privilege to lead have been engaged in, and it's what we will continue to do, even while all this noise is going on.
Yeah. So first of all, his Pompeo's first strategy was, oh, I don't know what happened there. I haven't seen the transcript. Oh, I haven't seen the memo. I haven't seen the whistleblower complaint. I don't know. Then it was to deny, and now, oh, you caught me? Okay, fine, I was on the phone call.
Not only I was on the phone call, what I did was right. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, and we're gonna continue doing the right thing, right? So this is exactly what you can expect from anyone on the right, anyone who's in office and in any type of position of power. They sometimes will do terrible things in plain sight and pretend as if it's totally okay.
Yeah. Why did you say you didn't know before? If you were on the call, why did you say you didn't know what happened on the call?
In fact, we have evidence of that. So here's Mike Pompeo on ABC's This Week doing exactly that.
President Trump pressed the president of Ukraine 8 times to work with Rudy Giuliani to investigate Joe Biden's son. What do you know about those conversations?
So you just gave me a report about a IC whistleblower campaign, none of which I've seen. I can tell you about this administration's policies with Ukraine.
Oh, I haven't seen it. I don't know. How would I know what's happening on the call? I didn't see the whistleblower complaint. Well, another way that you could have known what was happening on the call is that you were on the call. So that's the way you would have known. So now he's admitted because he got caught red-handed. By the way, is it normal for the Secretary of State to be listening on these calls? No, it is unusual. There are other American officials normally on these calls, including the National Security Advisor. But Pompeo was at the time in a turf war with Bolton, who was the National Security Advisor. So that might be the reason that he was on the call. It might be because somebody on the call has to make the decision on which of the calls they hide in the secret server. I don't know if that was Pompeo or someone else. He's neck deep in all of this. And he mentioned Volker in the first clip that we played you guys. So he was a special envoy to Ukraine. He's the one that Rudy has the text messages from, and he was talking about on Fox News. So
he has stepped down, by the way.
Yeah, so he stepped down last Friday, and reporting is now that Pompeo is preparing to throw Volker under a bus.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all.
Of course, and that might be why Volker stepped down. Like, oh, me doing things that are wrong. No. It was him, right? And they turn on each other so quick.
Of course.
Left, right, they don't give a damn. All they care about is not me, I'm gonna protect my own ass. Oh, Volker, you did what I told you to do and tell Rudy that it's okay to go visit the Ukrainian president? Idiot, now I'm gonna blame you for it. It's a classic Trump trick, actually.
So I want to remind you guys of something. So the call that Donald Trump had with Vladimir Zelensky was on July 25th. Shortly after that, Dan Coats stepped down.
3 days later.
No one's talking about Dan Coats.
Yeah, great point.
I want to hear from Dan Coats. Why did he really step down? What does he know? He needs to also testify as part of this impeachment investigation. But speaking of the impeachment investigation, Pompeo has been subpoenaed by Congress. And he is just outright saying that he will remain defiant and he will not cooperate. In fact, House Democrats looking into the incident have called for 5 current and former State Department officials to testify, but Pompeo said Tuesday that they would not show up. In fact, Pompeo was quoted as saying, the demands deeply violate fundamental principles of separation of powers, which makes no sense at all. And by the way, just yesterday, Pompeo was actually accusing others, House Democrats, of being bullies in this investigation, even though he works for Donald Trump. So let's just note the irony there. He said, quote, I'm concerned with aspects of the committee's request that can be understood only as an attempt to intimidate, bully, and treat improperly the distinguished professionals of the Department of State, including several career Foreign Service officers whom the committee is now targeting. So what about the members of the intelligence community that the Trump administration has been targeting and has been smearing and has been going after over the Mueller investigation? I mean, he talks about distinguished career professionals. I mean, come on. It's just incredible how they can use these arguments when they live in the biggest glass house in existence.
And with Republicans, it's always projection. So what happened today? Apparently, according to reporting, Inspector General of the State Department went to Congress to tell members of Congress it's actually Pompeo bullying people in the State Department to not testify to Congress, which is their legal obligation. So the Inspector General apparently is basically saying behind closed doors to Congress, you got to help these State Department officials out. They don't know what to do. You're telling them to testify, and they had to testify, but Pompeo is threatening them if they do testify. So that's what the Inspector General's job is, to make sure that you hold people to account, including the person leading your department, in this case, Secretary of State. So, it's really surprising to find out that in fact it's Pompeo who's the bully.
Yeah.
And there's also a report out from Richard Engel at NBC that when Pompeo ran the CIA, he would throw binders at people all the time.
Yeah.
And that if he got intelligence that didn't match his politics, he'd get furious and yell at people.
And he would demand polygraph tests. In fact, let me give you some of Engel's tweets on this. Pompeo, who accuses lawmakers who want answers of bullying, had fits of anger while at CIA, former senior intelligence officials say. Often, an official said it would happen if analysis didn't match the political theme of the day. Lots of slammed phones, plus demands for polygraphs. And then also former senior US intelligence officials tell NBC News while at the CIA, Pompeo was a bully to subordinates, driving some to quit or seek new assignments. Throwing binders was a popular sport, one said.
So that's who this guy is. You ever had a boss like that that's wrong but doesn't like to admit it, so he blames you? And then I don't know that you have had a boss that throws things at you, because that would get people in trouble in any normal workplace. And then it's all about him and his ambitions, and then he's a bully to you. That's who Pompeo is, that's who Trump is, that prick boss we've all had. And then he goes around saying, oh, please, I'm a distinguished professional. And the Democrats, hilarious. The Democrats are bullying him. When was the last time Democrats ever bullied anyone?
Look, the Democrats said that they would hold anyone who does not cooperate with subpoenas in contempt of Congress. Let's see if they're actually going to follow through on that. I mean, if they have that tough talk and they don't actually follow through when you have someone like Pompeo essentially flipping them off, then no one's gonna take them seriously. So they need to act and they need to be strong. All right, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, a story regarding Trump's hotels. There have been giant blocks of rooms rented by foreign leaders, and then no one ends up staying in them. What's the issue there? It's part of the impeachment investigation. We'll give you the details on that and more.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'll see you soon.